Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to a special board meeting of the West Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors. And this will be our last meeting of the year, and we are celebrating the holiday season. So happy holidays to everyone. The place looks very nice. Thank you for sprucing it up. And hopefully you'll all have a great end of the year. With that, we'll have a determination of a quorum. Mr. General Manager, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Director Scott Houston. Here. Director Don Deere. Here. Director Gloria Gray. Director Harold Williams. Here. President Desi Alvarez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and today Uzi's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please place your right hand over your heart. The flag, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Basically, I used to say except eighth graders, because we do the homework.
Okay, so we have any public comment, Mr. General Manager?
Mr. President, we have not received any requests from public or for public comment prior to today's meeting, though this meeting is being held both in person and virtually. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak, please indicate so by raising your virtual hand or indicate so in the room. And President Alvarez, I do not see any requests.
All right, so we have presentations today. And they're the installation and presentation. So Mr. General Manager, would you like to introduce that?
Yes, Mr. President, and this will be brief, but I want to thank you for the compliments about the room and the, as you called it, holiday party. But this event really came about at the direction of both our board president as well as Director Don Deere, in lieu of what we were looking at and what was budgeted for as far as a installation ceremony. We opted for a holiday party, inviting our entire staff and guests to celebrate the re-election and installation of both Director Don Deere and our board president Desi Alvarez.
If I could interrupt you for a second, and thank you for the celebration of that. But we're also here to celebrate all of the staff and all the work they've done this year. So,
Agreed.
and I apologize for my rude interruption.
No. But I do, earlier this month, not a lot of our staff were able to see it, though we got to see it on our social media. But we had both of our directors installed and sworn in. Director Don Deere was sworn in by our board secretary, Desiree Quintero. And we also had Gene Deere assist us with that. And it's worth noting that Director Don Deere has been serving on our board since the year 2000. So this is a new term for him. It'll begin obviously this year and run through 2028. Obviously, Director Deere has been very active as a member of the West Basin Board of Directors, serving as our Metropolitan Water District representative, currently the president of LAFCO, a teacher of 38 years, and not only a Gardena City Council member for 8 years, but also the longest tenured mayor of the city of Gardena from 1982 to 2001. So congratulations on your reelection, and thank you for letting us honor you today.
Once they get, they start to get rid of me.
Newest board member, Director Desi Alvarez, was originally elected in 2020 to the West Basin Board of Directors and was reelected just this past November. But Director Alvarez is no newbie in the world of water, not only serving as the Public Works Director of the city of Redondo Beach, but pretty much served in a role and capacity for the city of Downey. And then, of course, was the Chief Executive Officer of the Chino Basin Watermaster. Director Alvarez is currently our representative at Metropolitan Water District. And believe me when I say he is very active. I'm sure you can all imagine. and working diligently on direct potable reuse, Pure Water Southern California, and really making sure that West Basin's voice is heard at Metropolitan Water District. So thank you for your representation there. And of course, thank you for your continued representation here at West Basin Municipal Water District. So congratulations. Force it upon you, but we are very excited to have you celebrate with us today.
Thank you. So Director Deere, would you like to say anything?
I'll be real brief. We've already had our swearing in ceremonies and all that good stuff, but I do want to welcome everyone here today and hopefully all have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
And I'll also point out that Director Deere, after this term that he just began, will be the longest serving director on the West Basin Board, and probably no one will ever beat that.
Too.
And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for all of your work and for all of your patience. And it's been a pleasure being on the board. I look forward to the next 4 years, and that's probably going to be about it. I just want to accomplish a couple of things. But we're on our way there. Keep fighting. All right, with that, we will move on to the next item, which is items too late to be agendized. I don't believe we have any.
Correct.
So we will go on to the consent calendar, but before we have a motion for the consent calendar, I would like to add to the consent calendar, since these are items on the action calendar, and recommended by the respective committees that have heard them. Item number 8.1, 8.3, 8.5, 8.6, and 8.8.
What are you doing with them? They're actually,
So item 8.1, 8.3, 8.5, 8.6, and 8.8 will be added to the consent calendar.
Oh, okay.
So when you vote on the consent calendar, you're voting on the items listed under the consent calendar plus items 8.1, 3, 5, 6, and 8.
I'll move adoption of the items as described by the president.
I'll second that. Director Scott Houston,
Yes.
Director John Deere,
Yes.
Director Gloria Gray, Director Harold Williams,
Yes.
President Desi Alvarez.
So we'll move on to the action calendar, and the first item up is the award of an agreement for classification and compensation study.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. This begins on page 13 of your board packet. This item was heard by the Finance and Administrative Committee with a recommendation to move staff's recommendation. And we do have Elisa Macenas Fidelio, our Manager of Human Resources, available. If you'd like the full presentation, we're happy to do that. If you have any specific questions, we're happy to just address those. It's at the discretion of the board.
We don't need a full presentation. Maybe you can give a quick 2-minute overview.
Sure. So basically, what we're asking for the board to approve and the recommendation of Evergreen Solutions LLC to conduct our classification and compensation study. The need for this is one part of our strategic plan that we do manage and reward performance throughout evaluations, classifications, and compensations studies. And the last time we did one was in 2018. So we're overdue. Per the strategic plan, it's usually done within 5 years. We're at year 6. So in regards to the classification and compensation study, the reason for this is to be, one, competitive in the recruitment and retention basis for our staff, equity and compliance, and along with the alignment with our organizational goals. So our recommendation was to elect Evergreen Solutions LLC as the consultant to conduct the classification and comp study with a post fee of no more than $50,000 in a 6-month period. Other than that, the board has any questions in regards to the services or in the scope of service? I'm be happy to answer any questions.
Do any board members have any comments on it?
Um, my comment is that we should support this and we recommend it at the F&A committee. So I would make a motion to approve the item, staff's recommendation.
I attended the committee meeting and so I concur with the, second motion.
So since I was the one that pulled it, I just want to make a couple of comments. I understand the purpose of the study. I want to recognize that this is something also that I think human resources department should actually do themselves. I understand that we do have a lot of work, like in moving forward, I want to raise a concern that raised the finance committee. And that is that in doing the compensation, that we've been very careful in comparing ourselves to really comparable agencies. And not just other water districts, because the word water is different. I don't necessarily have to refer ourselves consistently just to other water districts. There are other comparable agencies that do very similar things that would be more aligned with what we do. So I wanted to make that noted. With that, go ahead and have a vote.
Director Scott Houston.
Yes.
Director Don Deere.
Yes.
Director Gloria Gray. Director Harold Williams.
Yes.
President Desi Alvarez.
Yes. Okay, the next item is the approval of the award of PFFP components for the solids handling improvement project. Mr. General Manager, please introduce that item.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. This item was heard just yesterday at the Engineering Operations Committee. It was moved forward without a staff or without a committee recommendation. The item begins on packet page 26. And again, we do have John Benner, our engineer 2 here, who presented the item yesterday. We are happy to review and do the entire presentation, or if it's the direction of the board, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Let's skip the entire presentation. This item was not, was heard in E&O committee yesterday, and it was moved forward to the board without a consensus. And some of the discussion background is really, this is a sole source procurement of equipment. And the reason for sole sourcing that equipment is because we are basically reconstructing a piece of equipment and it's got one manufacturer, one source of the equipment. And more important though, it really is the solids handling facility that we're rebuilding. And by the way, I do want to thank the staff, as we mentioned yesterday, for recognizing quite a bit of savings in the project as the project has moved forward. And, that's a good thing. Hopefully that can continue to happen and we don't have a bump up at the end of the day when everything is completed. But if there is, that the bump up is still less than the estimated original cost. I've from the beginning didn't think that this project was appropriate at this time, and that there were other ways to keep the facility working. So we had a better decision which way and what needed to be done at the incidental plant. So I think that once we make this investment, which is almost $1 million, purchasing this piece of equipment, this is one part of about a $10 million project. And I personally think that we probably could delay this, and I'm not supportive of this. So in my opinion, skip through this. And I'll make a motion to leave that, we defer this item to a future date. Undefined.
Mr. President, if I could just address that real quick. You know, this item is related obviously to a project that's been discussed now for numerous years. Staff's opinion that any additional delay beyond the past several delays puts not only our agency, but our recycled water program project and efforts at risk, and I would say dire risk. Obviously, staff has made the recommendation, as you noted yesterday. We did go out for the procurement at the approval of the board of directors. This was approved prior to that. Staff would not have done so. And at that time, when the board made that decision, we promised to return to the board with the response of the procurement, why we're here today. So myself, I stand by the recommendation from staff. And obviously, we have our team here if anybody has any questions.
I very much appreciate that. I think we just have a difference of opinion. Consistently, I have expressed my reservations about moving forward with this project. So with that, if there is no second to my motion, then we put some other back.
Well, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Take a vote.
Director Scott Houston,
Yes.
Director Don Deere,
Yes.
Director Gloria Gray, Director Harold Williams,
Yes.
President Desi Alvarez.
No. Okay. So we will move on. The next item is contract amendments for the supply and delivery of sodium hydroxide chemical. Mr. General Manager, we can introduce that item.
Yes, thank you, President Alvarez. This item was heard yesterday by our Engineering Operations Committee. It begins on packet page 49. We do have our staff here that provided the previous presentation. We're happy to do that. However, I would note that there was one very specific question that the committee asked to be addressed today. So if I could have Eric Owens, our Assistant General Manager, introduce the item. We do have Joe Byrne here, our legal counsel, to answer any questions, but maybe a brief overview of the specific decision that's before you today, and then we can move to legal.
That's perfect.
Thank you. Members of the board. For the committee members from yesterday, they'll recall that Jeremiah presented a situation where we have a chemical vendor that has requested some relief for a recent regulatory requirement that got passed. Just to back up a little bit, we have competitively procured this chemical back in April. In October, the California Air Resources Control Board passed a 0.7 cent increase per pound on the chemical that we're using, sodium hydroxide, which is of course critical to our recycled water program. The vendor has come forward and asked if West Basin would incur that cost to the tune of about $8,800 increase over the next 6 months, which is the remainder of the contract period. Staff worked very diligently to look at the alternatives to just accepting an increase, including alternative pricing from the bidders that provided bids back in April. At least in one instance, we are talking about tens of thousands of dollars of a higher price were we to just simply switch to that vendor. But also we have a contract for the supply and delivery of the product that was entered into by both parties back in April. And so one of the options that we've explored is working with BBK, our legal counsel, to determine what the ultimate impact is if we decline to pay this adder that we're being requested. I should note that the vendor has suggested or outright indicated that if West Basin does not incur this additional cost, they would seek to exit the contract and ultimately quit supplying service to us, in which case we would need to fairly immediately find that alternative supplier at the higher cost. And of course, that would spark, I think, some legal action for BBK's part. And so the staff recommendation, as you read it, is to simply move forward with the $8,800 increase on the current contract, to accept that. However, we did want at the committee and the board level to allow you all to discuss the alternatives and ultimately hear from legal as to what that might look like before we just simply accept the higher price.
Just to follow up, yesterday in committee, we've had the discussion. We understand that the cost, or the additional fee from, the air board now something that they have to pay. But we have a contract, and the contract is what it is. They're supposed to deliver the chemical at the price that they submitted. There are other vendors out there that submitted higher prices. And if you ask them today for their price, they may or may not be the same. But they are under no contractual obligation. This vendor is under contractual obligation. I have one question. What's the approximate amount of the contract?
If I recall correctly, the price is in the $400,000.
$1.1 million for the full year contract.
So we're talking about a 1% cost to the vendor in here. So in the overall scheme of things, when one enters into a contract, one would anticipate, especially a long-term contract that's going to extend over a period of time, one would anticipate they're going to have some additional costs and maybe some additional savings in their operation. So in the overall amount of this contract, I don't see this as them coming back and saying, hey, this is 40% of the contract. This is not a cost we can endure. This is a very minor cost of the overall contractual amount. And it does seem unreasonable for them to come in and say, we have a contract, but we're not ready to honor it. So the question that we had yesterday for legal counsel is, does our contract require them to perform? And everybody has the right to say, I'm not going to perform. But what is the contract between this vendor and West Basin say?
Yeah, and so our contract does require them to perform, but they've essentially said that there's a changed circumstance that's come up. There is a provision in the contract that talks about governmental restrictions or regulations or controls that come up kind of unforeseeably. We could argue, we'd be in kind of an arguing match with them over whether this is foreseeable or not. Obviously, we knew it was coming, and the timing of which do we know was coming exactly when it did. Not so sure. So I think we would have some good arguments to make to try to force them to perform. But given the amount of the money that's at stake, and they could have some argument as well that this is the equivalent of something that wasn't contemplated by the parties when they put in their initial bid. So again, I think we have some good arguments, but for this amount of money, it would be more a fight to make a point. Although I guess one option to say no and see what happens, address it at that time as well.
So one other
I think
question
we've got a practical solution if they
for Eric. When did CARB start talking about this fee?
It's staff's understanding that CARB first announced this regulation back in 2020. It became effective in October of 2024, and we received notification of this increase in November 2020.
We signed the contract in August?
July.
July. So the fee became effective afterwards, but the fact that a fee was coming has been known for 4 years. So it's a hard argument to say, we didn't know this was coming. They may not know the date that it was going to be effective, but say that it would be reasonable to think that we know it was coming. I'm more of leaning to the fact that we should go back to them and say, you have a contract. You knew this was coming, or you should have known. We discussed and we've been talking about this since 2020. Typically longer period of time than we entered into negotiations to award a contract for the purchase of chemicals.
I have a quick maybe question is it my understanding is that the EPA approved it in October and it goes into effect in January, and whether they knew it was going to be approved by the EPA in October or not would be a pretty relevant point. If they knew it was going to be approved at some point, contract goes for a year, you're already halfway through the contract, or
Yeah, we're
so they whether they filled that in, but certainly I think if they were prudent, they would have had something in there that said, in the event this fee goes into place during the term of the contract, you will pay X to cover the costs. That would have been the appropriate way for them to handle it.
Or alternatively, it's something that they didn't think was gonna be that major, a cost item, and it's like anything else, they don't control 100% of their costs. They're gonna have, over that period of time, changes in their operational costs, some increases and some savings. Yeah, everybody that's in business has to deal with that. So, I guess I'll make the motion, motion on this. If this is something that you should go back and negotiate with this vendor.
If you have a motion, I'd like
Go
some
ahead.
questions. So, again, this contract is halfway through almost, right?
If that's the case, yeah.
Are we gonna go out, we're going out to bid again? Are these just one-year contracts? Is that we normally do it?
Yes.
That's right, but I would also add that you may recall, Director, that with the operations and maintenance contract that we are currently, in fact, should be receiving proposals for Friday. That contract will will become effective in August of 2025. And it also contemplates allowing the contract operator to manage the O&M contract, or excuse me, the chemical contracts. So there is a likelihood that after August of 2025, or certainly after 2025, once the contract operator is settled into the new contract, that West Basin will not hold any chemical contract responsibility of each operator.
But when does this contract end, this current one?
Current one is June 30th.
So there's still a gap.
Yeah, there would be a gap.
Somehow you have to do something in the interim.
Whichever contract is in place in June 30th, be it this vendor or another, we would extend it until the new contract operator can either be assigned this contract or take on their own contract.
Now, I understand that the motion on the table is to continue negotiating. That's right? That's what I heard? Okay. Which you've already done a lot of negotiating, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'll let Jeremiah speak to this, but he's been back and forth with the vendor and we have official letters going.
I think it has been delayed, but I don't think our general counsel has been involved. Maybe the general counsel would be involved and say, you have a contract.
Well, I guess here's my point. How much longer do we have time to deal with this? I mean, when were they pushing us to make a decision?
The new pricing, I believe, per carb takes effect January 1st. And what they've indicated is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I misspeak, Jeremiah, but they are not necessarily going to immediately stop service, but they would seek to.
I'm sorry, they said what?
They're not going to necessarily immediately stop service, but they will seek to terminate the contract. And so there is I think, a scenario where if the board rejects the request today to add the cost to the contract, then we will probably need to submit a letter back to them in response to their request, drawn up by legal counsel with our position, but also be simultaneously entering into at least exploring a new contract with an alternative supplier in the event that they do stop service, just so that we can continue to have chemical on hand.
Well, I'm torn, especially with what's on the table. I feel like we're haggling over such a small amount of money and, I get the sort of like the purpose, but you know what I mean? Like the principle of it. But to me, it seems like staff's already been working on this. It just gets into another whole can of worms. Further with this, a lot of things will change in the new year. So, I would prefer we go with staff's recommendation. Things have been accomplished thus far, but, that's not on the table at this moment. That's my comments right now.
Director Houston does point out that it is a point of principle, but, and that is what it is. We have a contract. Contracts, we're always, if you look at it from our side, we're always being held to our contractual obligations. And usually, not just our contractual obligations, but we go above and beyond. And it should be a two-way street when people enter into contracts, even when it is with a public agency. I'm sure that if this was with a private company, the private company would be saying, hey, I got a contract, you perform. And that's more typical. So, I understand and I actually am frustrated because I think at the end of the day, the amount of money that we're gonna spend on this, or effort, I should say, is gonna be, exceeding the value of, what they're asking to recover. But it is a matter of principle.
I could just add, I just want to, yeah, and I agree with that. I just want to make sure that we know that it's not super obvious and clear. There are some questions of fact that would be involved if we were to, let's say they tried to terminate the contract and we disagree. We're then faced at that point with another decision to make of is it worth it to pursue it more aggressively or not. And obviously in the meantime, we could be talking to them, figuring out hopefully a resolution. But I do want you to keep that in mind that it is a question of fact and their argument is not completely meritless. We have to look into it more as to whether something has come up that was potentially out of their control, whether the timing of it is one that they knew about or not would be kind of critical for us. So just because we're going to fight our principle doesn't mean we're going to necessarily always prevail on principle. It's, I guess, kind of my point.
Director, I would add that, staff sees it exactly the way you do, that we understand the dollar value is relatively small, but didn't feel like it was up to us to make that decision. Ultimately, it is the board's decision how they'd like to proceed. And we hope we've laid out kind of the pathway for y'all to decide what's best. But from my perspective, I do believe that for the cost and the effort that staff is going to have to jump through in order to potentially identify an alternative solution, legal counsel to get involved and engaged, it is going to far outweigh the price increase of $8,800, as you point out, President.
Yeah,
Because that's what I'm afraid of. That we're probably going to waste more of our staff time and legal counsel costs than the $8,800 we're apparently trying to save. And we are over a barrel, but as far as for the board, I don't think it's worth our energy.
I would add that there would be potentially cost recovery if we went through a legal route. But as Joe mentioned, there's no guarantee of an outcome.
by cost recovery, you mean recovering our costs. We're never gonna recover our costs. Our effort and our cost, as I said earlier, exceeds the amount. And it's just a matter of principle of people keep coming back and asking for more when you have a contractual obligation and it's your obligation to meet that. Okay. We do have a motion and I believe a second, so,
Can you
uh,
repeat the motion so we all know?
so the motion is to have this go back and general counsel and staff, continue to negotiate with the vendor. We may be seeing this again next month on that.
So point of clarification, when I hear you say negotiate, what I'm hearing you say is to reject the request.
No, for basically general counsel to draft a letter saying that for the agreement, you do not have the right to terminate, et cetera, and here's why. Something along those lines. I'm not
Okay.
opposing it for him, but
We do have a second.
today, I don't believe, and if I'm, the discussions and all the negotiations with staff and, legal has not been involved.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, there was a second.
I thought. I think
Director
Director
Deere
Deere-
seconded.
Shall we call for the question?
Yes.
Director Scott Houston.
No.
Director Don Deere.
Yes.
Director Gloria Gray, Director Harold Williams,
Yes.
President Desi Alvarez.
Yeah. Okay. Then the next item is the information calendar. Does anyone on the board wish to have a presentation information calendar? If not, we have an information calendar, receive and file. We have a motion to receive and file both of those.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Both of those, what are you referring to?
Item 9 and 10 on the agenda.
Oh, 9 and 10, okay.
Director Scott Houston.
Yeah.
Director Don Deere,
Yes.
Director Gloria Gray, Director Harold Williams.
Yes.
President Desi Alvarez.
Yes. Mr. General Manager, do you have anything to report on?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You should have a written hard copy of my general manager's report in front of you. I believe it's also been emailed, but there are a couple of additional items that I would like to address. First and foremost, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I do really want to say thank you to our administration team led by Desiree, but her entire team for everything that you see here today, all of the decorations, and of course, the food. I know our board president selected it, but getting that food here and setting it all up. The event was amazing. And of course, as soon as I walked in the room, it looks beautiful in here. So thank you very much. Secondly, I hope you've noticed, I know last month we had a chance to prepare you for it, but now you're actually seeing it, that we actually have a new updated system as far as producing all of our board packets and committee packets. You can see a little bit that it looks a little bit different. You also have our official votes at the end of each action item. Those are obviously being controlled again by our admin team, both Desiree and in the back Haza, who did yesterday's meeting. But I will tell you that the amount of work that goes through that or goes directed to that in order to have these meetings without really any hiccups. There's a lot of effort behind it. So I want to say thank you to all of our staff, as well as the admin team, all of our managers, because learning a new system and getting everything submitted is not always easy.
My computer doesn't show that. Neither does Harold.
No.
Yours shows the actual agenda. That
I
is
see
the
that.
director portal. If you want to switch, we can switch you to this view instead if you don't want to see the agenda.
Yeah, I don't need to see the, I got the.
Perfect.
Right here.
We will switch you over.
Okay. And then I also wanted to comment on a few other things. While attending Aqua just recently, it was important to note that West Basin was recognized at the President's Special Recognition Award for West Basin Municipal Water District for achieving a low ratio of paid claims and case reserves to deposit premiums in the liability program for the period of October 2020 to September 2023. It was announced at the Board of Directors meeting in Palm Desert. Secondly, we received President's Special Recognition for West Basin for achieving, again, a low ratio for, looks like the same award to me, but was recognized in 2024. So obviously doing everything that we can with our Aqua JPIA coverage and making sure that we are safe here without any liabilities. Secondly, we just received our Distinguished Budget Presentation Award presented to West Basin Municipal Water District from the Government Finance Officers Association. Again, we were just talking about it the other day. I know the small event that we had here, talking about our budget process this past year. Of course, the budget that we were ultimately able to be produced. So I want to say thank you very much to our entire finance team, as well as all of our department managers and staff members here, because we would not have received this award without all of the work behind it. And then last but not least, when I talk about that effort, I really wanted to recognize Wendy Nakamura. So Wendy has been with the district, I believe, for 22 years.
Yes.
22 years as a member of our finance team, really doing a little bit of everything. But with the retirement of Margaret Moja and our finance team over there, we're looking at search of a CFO. And Wendy stepped up through a competitive selection process and was selected to serve as our Chief Financial Officer. She has led our finance team as well as our contracts team for this past year, and she is retiring. So this is her last meeting here, our last board meeting at West Basin. So I do want to say thank you very much for her leadership, all of the work that she's done. 22 years is a long time to be at West Basin. I do want to say thank you, and I know that we have been successful throughout those years because of your efforts. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. I do want to say, I feel incredible grateful working for West Basin in the past 22 years. And then I truly deeply appreciate the board support and then everyone else, management supporting my role at CFO. Thank you, guys. I'll always be the cheerleader for West Basin regarding this, where I will be in the future.
Mr. President, that concludes my comment.
Okay, Mr. General Counsel, do you have anything to report?
Nothing other than what's in closed session.
All right, and then we have the 18-12-34 reporting for the board members. Director Houston, do you have anything?
No, I'm going to turn it in writing, but I would ask if there's a way before we go to closed session, we could at least say some comments.
I was gonna say that
Okay, good.
before closed session. but
Very
I'm
good.
gonna Wait till after.
Perfect. Thank you.
Read my mind.
Thank you.
Director Deal, do you have any 12-34 comments?
No.
And
Well, thank you.
none? No. Okay, so before we do go into closed session, I'd like to thank everyone for all of your hard work this year and for all of your patience with the board and all of our requests and all of the hard work that you've put in. We wish you all a very happy holidays and enjoy the end of this year. And Wendy, thank you very much. 22 years is a long time. Wish you would have stayed a little bit longer. But best of luck to you and have a great retirement.
Thank you.
Okay? So any other board members comments, please do so.
I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll go ahead because I wanted to make sure a lot of times we come out of closed session and of course, no one's left here. Whether you watch us later or whatever. But I wanted to say, yes, Wendy, congratulations. Thank you for such a long period of service to one place, West Basin. And so we definitely appreciate that immensely. And just as a whole, thank you to staff. I love this district. I think we are one of the best water districts in the state of California. And I like to be a cheerleader too for West Basin when I'm out and about, whether it's locally or in other places, the state or, in the country. But please know that we value your work. You're really appreciated. I think that we have done a lot of great things in the last, let's say, 1 or 2 years. And I think we've got a really good team right now. I think everyone's gelling pretty good. But also we've had those retirements. We've had people who are leaving for various reasons. So it's also a hard time recruiting new people, as you know. So I think we're all trying to make sure that this is a great place to be and to work, but being a competitive environment too, right? Both public sector and private sector and coming out of pandemic. So we're all learning as we go, but just know that, I know we as a whole appreciate you all, but I certainly appreciate you. And EJ and Desiree know that I've always got a lot of stuff going on and a lot of things too. It's like, hey, can we get a plant tour? Can we do this? Can we do that? And staff always has stepped up to make it happen, whether it's for each director or as a whole. So thank you for that. Thank you for a good year, and please have a happy holidays. I'm glad we could do this before Christmas and have a little time off for everybody or a little more calmness. But looking forward to 2025.
I want to say to Wendy, you're one of the reasons your department has been the strongest, one of the strongest ones here at West Basin. You've done a great job for us. You'll enjoy retirement, I'm sure. Sure hope you do. And to everyone else, have a good holiday season. You guys did a great job for us and we thank you very much.
Mr. Williams.
Well, I think that a lot has been said, and I agree with all of it. And I do want to say that I look forward to West Basin continuing its efforts in keeping water uh, clean and affordable. And I look forward to the organization continuing to run smoothly and understand that we have to work together to meet our goal, to serve our community. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, with that, would you like to introduce the closed session items, Mr. General Counsel?
So, Mr. President, we'll go into closed session for the items that are stated on the agenda. One is anticipated litigation, 2 matters, and the other is initiation of litigation, 2 matters.
Okay. And again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
where's tomorrow? But the fact that we're talking about it, say,
Yeah. I still, I laugh and see, like, I guess Larry Charter.
Okay, we will return to open session. And Mr. General Counsel, is there anything to report from closed session, please?
no action that was taken in closed.
Okay, the next item is director's comments.
Well, I will just say, yeah, I will just say, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year coming up, and I just want to say thank you to all of our staff once again, and also our legal counsel team. I just, we have a lot of things going on all the time, and you all keep us on track. But we do ask a lot, and I want to say thanks for your service and the work that you put into this on behalf of the board, but on behalf of the ratepayers. So thank you very much. Looking forward to 2025.
Director Deere, do you have any closing comments?
I'll just say ditto to what my colleague just said.
Director Williams?
Yeah, I would like to say, yeah, peace on earth to all good men and women of goodwill. And that, you know, that Christmas time is a welcome break from the pressures of everyday living. And especially good time to count our blessings and appropriate time to say thanks sincerely to all of those who have helped us through the year, and to say thanks to our customers, our friends and associates, and of course, our friends. And so I'll say that may your hearts be filled with the spirit of Christmas, and may you enjoy a bountiful new year. To you and to all those.
I too echo similar comments. Want to thank all of the staff for everything that you guys have done this year and all you'll be doing next year. And thank you for today's event. It was very nice. The ornaments are very much appreciated. So and, hopefully we'll be able to do it this year and the year after and the year after that. So very kind. I want to thank my colleague and for this year and for the opportunity to serve as president of the board. Very much appreciated and thank you all. And I want to wish everyone the best of the holidays, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.